Orin and Lyria stood atop the ridge overlooking their village. Smoke curled from the chimneys below as farmers and blacksmiths went about their routines, unaware of the cataclysm that had just begun. "They'll come for us, Orin," Lyria said softly, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "The Pantheon won't let this stand. Killing Zephyrian was just the first strike." Orin gripped the Blade of Eternis tightly. "Let them come. We've been living as their pawns for too long. If humanity has to fight for freedom, then so be it." Suddenly the sky darkened, and an unnatural silence swept over the land. The birds stopped chirping, the wind ceased, and the air grew cold. Orin and Lyria exchanged a glance as an ominous hum filled the air. A vortex of swirling clouds formed above the village, glowing with fiery red light. From the vortex descended Kaelith, the goddess of despair, her black wings blotting out the dim sunlight. Her form was both beautiful and terrifying, her porcelain skin glowing faintly as her crimson eyes locked onto Orin. Behind her, the massive serpentine form of Myrakos the sea. Leviathan coiled through the vortex, its scales glinting like shards of sapphire. Even from a distance, its roars sent tremors through the earth. Kaelith spoke, her voice resonating in the minds of every villager. "Mortals of Erythraea, you have committed an unforgivable sin. You have spilled divine blood and defied the natural order. Surrender the Blade of Eternis, or face annihilation." Panic erupted in the village below as people screamed and ran for cover. Orin stepped forward, planting his feet firmly on the ridge. He raised the blade, its molten glow defiant against the stormy sky. "We will not surrender," he shouted. "We will not bow to your tyranny." Kaelith's lips curved into a cruel smile. "So be it." With a flick of her wrist, she unleashed a wave of shadowy tendrils that surged toward Orin and Lyria. Orin raised the Blade of Eternis, slashing through the darkness, but the sheer force of her magic drove him back. Lyria, chanting, quickly conjured a barrier of light, but even her magic began to crack under the weight of Kaelith's assault. Myrakos roared, descending toward the village. Its massive body crushed buildings and sent people scattering in terror. The Leviathan's serpentine neck reared back, preparing to unleash a torrent of water that would drown the entire valley. Orin turned to Lyria, desperation in his eyes. "I can't fight both of them alone." Lyria nodded, her voice trembling but resolute. "Then we call on the old magic." "The old magic? It's forbidden. There's no other choice." She snapped, her eyes fierce. Lyria slammed her staff into the ground, her voice rising in an ancient incantation. The earth beneath them began to glow with golden runes, and the air vibrated with raw power. Orin felt the surge of energy coursing through him as the Blade of Eternis burned brighter than ever. From the glowing runes rose a massive ethereal form, a titan made of stone and fire, its eyes blazing with molten fury. It was Arion, the ancient guardian, a protector of humanity long thought lost to time. Kaelith's smile faltered as she took a step back. "Impossible, the ancients were destroyed ages ago." Arion roared, its voice shaking the heavens. With one colossal swing of its fiery arm, it struck Myrakos, sending the Leviathan crashing into the mountainside. Kaelith screamed in fury, her wings spreading wide as she unleashed a storm of black fire upon the Guardian. Orin seized the moment, charging toward Kaelith with the Blade of Eternis in hand. The goddess turned her fiery gaze on him, summoning a sword of pure shadow. Their weapons clashed the impact, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. "You think you can challenge the gods?" Kaelith sneered, driving him back with a flurry of strikes. "I don't think," Orin growled, blocking her blows. "I know we can." Arion grappled with Myrakos, the two titanic beings locked in a battle that shook the valley. Meanwhile, Lyria channeled her magic-weaving shields around fleeing villagers and binding Kaelith's shadows whenever they threatened Orin. The fight raged on the tide, shifting with every strike. Orin's strength began to waver, but he pressed on, fueled by the memory of his father and the hope of a free humanity. Finally, with a surge of energy, he dodged Kaelith's shadow blade and drove the Blade of Eternis into her chest. The goddess let out a scream that echoed through the heavens as her form disintegrated into ash. The moment Kaelith fell, Myrakos let out a deafening roar and retreated into the vortex, its serpentine form vanishing into the clouds. The storm cleared, and silence returned to the valley. Orin dropped to his knees, the Blade of Eternis heavy in his hands. Lyria rushed to his side, her face pale but determined. "You did it," she said softly. "No," Orin replied, his voice hoarse. "We did it." The villagers emerged from their hiding places, their faces a mixture of awe and fear. For the first time in centuries, they had witnessed the fall of a god. But Orin knew the war was far from over. In the distance, the celestial peaks of Mount Celestara glowed with a fiery light as the remaining gods prepared their next move. "We've won this battle," Orin said, rising to his feet. "But the gods won't stop until they've destroyed us all. We need to unite, humans, beasts, and even the ancients." Lyria placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll fight together, Orin, until the very end." As the sun rose over the valley, Orin raised the Blade of Eternis high, its glow defiant against the heavens. The people cheered their fear turning to hope. The war for Erythraea had begun, and for the first time, humanity stood a chance.